Coming up on Smash That Glass.
Everyone, look at my foot long.
Think of the herpes.
And you've ruined it for me. I hope you're happy with yourselves. Call me Bubbles, darling. Everybody does. Hello and welcome to Smash That Glass, a celebration of the women that get shit done in music, entertainment, pop culture and throughout history. I'm your host, Candy Machine, and I'm here with Jupiter.
Hello!
I'm here with SuperNattyCat. And I'm here with AcidxPearl.
Oi, oi!
Welcome everybody to the Sick Cast. Yes, two of us are very poorly this week, so huge apologies for the mouth breathing that you might get.
I have a deviated septum.
I also have a deviated septum too.
Oh, that means you get a free nose job.
A free nose job?
Yeah, if you have a deviated septum, you can just... So everyone says, isn't it? It's what all stars say. If they got a deviated septum and then they come in, they have the most beautiful, tiny little anime nose ever. And they're like, oh, I had a deviated septum. And then they're like, perfect nose. Like Ashley Tisdale.
Titsdale.
Oh.
Yeah, she had a nose job, didn't she?
So if I've got deviated tits, can I use that as an excuse? I've got deviated tits. What's the deviation?
Yeah, try it. Why not?
Please try it and tell us what happens.
Well, the thing is, one of mine is headed south and the other is headed southwest, which is a bit of an issue.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun.
Oh no, they're split.
Different postcodes.
Yeah, they've had an argument.
Told you should have made money off them while you could.
One of them
clearly owes money to the other one, that's what it is.
Absolutely, they are avoiding each other.
I went to go see Megan.
Did you?
Yeah, it was good. Well, it wasn't good. It was actually really, really terrible. But in such a funny way. Absolutely hilarious.
That's what you want in a horror, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Like, it didn't deserve to be... I think it's a 15. It did not deserve to be a 15.
I think from what I heard, they'd done an extra, like a gory cut that was like a proper horror film. Because, you know, in the advert, she did the kind of funny dance sort of thing. They were sort of like, all the 12 and 13-year-olds on TikTok are going to want to do this dance and they're going to watch this film. So they're like, we need to tone it down a bit. So apparently that's why. Yeah, there was
hardly any violence in it at all.
Was it funny? Like, were people in the cinema actually laughing? Because I saw that dance scene, and it looks like it goes on forever. Like, ages.
It's just so fucking random. And some of the acting, especially from the guy that owns the company that makes these, like, Hasbro-esque toys, he's such a bad actor.
Oh, no.
So bad. But it's so stiff. It's hilarious.
I think, like, the worst horror film we've ever seen in the cinema was Old.
God, that was terrible.
It's the same, just like really ropey acting, and like literally like the first opening 5 minutes, they're like, "Oh, isn't time moving fast?" And aren't you growing up? It was just from the outset. You're like,
you sing when you're older.
Oh god, it was so bad. So is Megan like the same lines though?
Yeah, stiff crap acting. Not so much from like the little girl that's in it, the one that gets Megan as her friend. She's quite good. And the cool hip aunt that works for the like tech company, she's alright. I've seen her in a couple of other films, and she's alright. But everyone else is just terribly shit, really shit.
What does it do differently from the Child's Play films?
Do they differ from the Child's Play films?
Yeah, like how do they differ?
I would probably say the comedy in this is a lot more slapstick.
Right. Like
genuinely slapstick, stupid comedy. And like there are some creepy bits, mine. Like the way she walks. Like there's no spoilers or anything, but there's a moment in the film when she's chasing someone. There's loads of gifs and memes about it. And the way that she like moves is very Ring-esque. Like
I hate that.
Very much like that, but in a robotic way. And it's how they've done it is incredible. And actually, we Googled afterwards how they made Megan, like how they made her look the way she does. And she is actually played by a little girl.
Yeah, I've seen the little
which is
girl.
quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how they do it is it's very, very clever in that sense. Like she looks perfectly like a robot.
It's
and
very
walks like a
Uncanny
robot
Valley,
and
isn't
stuff.
it?
Yeah. It's worth a watch, but don't go into it thinking there's going to be loads of jump scares, because there's not.
Oh, good.
There's going to be loads of gore. There is not. It is literally just a piss take, and it's very self-aware that it's daft.
Right.
So yeah, but it's worth the watch. Worth the watch.
I'll
Got my seal
wait
of
till it
approval.
streams, I think. So would you say
Yeah.
it's like baby's first horror film?
Yeah, definitely. One to go and see with your teenage friends.
Wait
What
to
was your
stream
first-
it. I think we should cinema it. Come on, the
You reckon?
teenagers. There's
We
been like
haven't
no
in a
films
while.
out. Yeah.
What was your first horror film that you saw?
Mine was, well, I don't know about first horror film, but the first film, when you said horror film watching with your friends, mine was is it The Descent. With the mole people.
Oh.
That's the one where they go down into the cave, isn't it?
Yeah, into the cave, and then the mole people find. Oh my god!
Do you know what? That film is scary enough without the fucking weird goblins. Like, just them going in those horrible claustrophobic environments, that was bad enough.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
No, watch that. Really, really scary.
It
And
is
I remember
scary.
my friends and I, for some reason, used to stay up late on a Saturday night when we were like 14, and on a loop watch Girl Interrupted.
I love that film so much.
It was. I remember we
Such a
watched.
good
I think over the course of a couple, like maybe about 2 or 3 years, I think we watched it about 10 times. Just seemed to always be in the background.
I think my first horror film with my friends, like the same age, was that What Lies Beneath, and I can't really remember it, but it's like.
With Harrison Ford.
Is that who is in it? Like, I literally can't. I just
Yeah,
remember
I'm
there's like
pretty sure.
wife and husband, or like girlfriend and boyfriend maybe.
Yeah.
And like he
That's the one.
killed his girlfriend. But like there's a scene in a bath, and I honestly swear to God, I didn't have a bath for like 2 weeks. Like I'd shower, but I would not get in the bath because I was so scared. And I had to be like to your friends, like,
sounds
well, I'm not even
awesome.
scared, but I was like crying on the inside, and they definitely put me off baths.
It's
Maybe I should
something
watch
to do
it
with the
again.
lake, isn't it?
I really can't.
Something to do. She's in the lake or
Oh
something.
yeah,
isn't
there's a
it?
big. I like really can't remember, but I just remember there was a bath scene, and I was like, well, that's me not having a bath now for 2 weeks.
It was a while before I had a bath after watching Freddy. Nightmare on Elm Street,
yeah.
the first one, because there was a bath scene in that one too. That was actually one of the first horror films I watched that actually scared me. Like, the first Nightmare on Elm Street is still scary, and I watched it whilst I was 14 or 15, and I was by myself babysitting this kid, and the parents had Sky TV and we didn't, so I just watched everything and fucking shit myself. I was too scared to walk back home afterwards in case Freddy was there. But the first one I watched was Poltergeist, and I think that's quite a good like
Ooh.
baby's first horror film as well, because it's
Yeah.
not it's kind of adventure-y as well as scary. Like, there are scary
Yeah.
moments, and I think probably if you saw it back in the day, it was scary, but not so much.
My mum was
anymore.
terrified of Poltergeist.
Oh,
So, yeah.
it is a banger. Well, there's this like rumors of. Have you heard like of the curse of Poltergeist?
No.
So apparently the film itself was cursed because all of these. It was just surrounded by bad luck, and all these cast members died subsequently, including the little girl that was in it.
No.
Yeah, there's all sorts of weird events that took place, but they were saying that. So do you remember the scene where it's kind of like the storm comes in and the pool outside floods and it's full of mud and everything, and all these skeletons pop out? Well, apparently those were real skeletons because it was cheaper and easier to source real skeletons than it was to get
I think I
fake
remember you
ones
saying
made.
about that.
God.
That's disgusting.
I know. I don't know whether it's true or not, but that is the rumor.
That
In
cannot
there.
be true. The
I
amount
don't
of
know.
like paperwork you would have to complete, and props departments, you could rent skeletons in props departments, surely.
You would think so, but then I don't think this was something they declared. They didn't say yes, these are real skeletons. I think they were like, no,
Do you think
these
do you think
aren't real
perhaps they allow?
skeletons.
Yeah. Do you think?
Don't spoil it for us. We want them to be real. We wish them real.
I think maybe they're telling you that it's real to make it scary. Maybe the legend of the movie is what makes it scary rather than the movie
I
itself.
think I think there is a lot of that going on. But that said, there were quite a lot. I think yeah. So the little girl in it died. She was unwell for a long time. But also, I think the girl that played the older sister was murdered or something. It was
Bloody hell.
yeah, really super creepy, and yeah, lots of weird things. So yeah, Poltergeist, my first horror film.
Mine was Sleepy Hollow.
Oh,
Is that a horror?
it is great.
It is when I was literally 9 years old, so I wasn't allowed to watch anything scary because my mum was terrified of scary films. So anything scary was off in our house. But I had a friend whose parents, looking back, were absolute stoners. And I used to go over to his house and I'd stay the night all the time. We were best buddies. And the one night we stayed up and watched Sleepy Hollow because his mum and dad were like, yeah, watch what you want. And I was so scared. And he was like, hey, this is like, you can laugh at this. And then we started laughing. Like, he'd point bits out and make me laugh at it.
Oh.
And after that, I was like, horror's fine.
Aww.
And that was it.
Oh, that's so sweet. I wish someone taught me that.
Yeah.
Joe did a good one for me, not horror films, but I'm just a big baby on roller coasters, and she's like, if you scream before the drop, you're fine. So now every time we're on a roller coaster, I'm like, should I scream now? And she's like, yes. I'm like, ah! And it works.
Do you know how I found that out? Is when I was younger, I went skydiving once, and they were like, sometimes as soon as you jump out of the plane, you lose your breath, like your lungs kind of lock up, and they're like, if that happens, you just need to scream, like you need to shout as loud as you can. So it's like, maybe this will work on roller coasters. And sure enough, it does. So top tip, if you don't like that drop sensation on a roller coaster, scream just before you're about to go down, and you don't get that kind of feeling in your stomach.
Get it out.
Honest to God, it works. But did you ever see any films that weren't supposed to be scary that scared the bejesus out of you when you were younger? Like a really stupid moment.
Three men and a little lady.
Really?
Because there's a ghost in the window in the house.
That is right. Yeah, I've seen that as well. It was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for me, and it wasn't the scary tunnel bit either. It was the bit where the girl turns into the blueberry.
Oh, I got a friend from college, and he was sick at that.
Yeah,
So you're not the first person to say that.
And I wouldn't eat sweets or anything after. It was horrible. I hated it.
I remember Return to Oz. I remember watching at a very young age.
That's so scary.
Is that with the
And I
monkeys
wasn't-
on like wheels?
Yes.
Yes.
And the evil queen that could choose her head from a different cabinet. I
Terrifying.
wasn't
And the
scared
ball.
by it, but I remember everyone in my family being scared. But I think because it wasn't actually meant to be a horror, I just found it really fascinating. I wasn't frightened by it. I struggle with like psychological horrors. I remember obviously Girl Interrupted kind of fucks with your head for like a day or so. But Donnie Darko, watching that as like a hormonal
film.
teenager and watching that, I think I was quite depressed for a couple of days after that, I think. It really like psychologically like screwed with my head a little bit.
Yeah, do you know what? I saw that at a midnight showing, and it was just about 3 of us in the cinema because no one had heard of it at that time. And then the song came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, what's that from? Donnie Darko?" And then the film exploded. But yeah, I'd heard from a couple of friends in the States, go watch this film. It's insane. You won't understand what's going on. It's amazing. So yeah, there was like one showing at midnight. We went to see it. And yeah, very very good. And then it exploded.
I feel like that's another film I need to watch. I watched it in college, and my memory just doesn't hold films. Like I feel like I could watch that and be like, oh, this is all new.
I think it's like one of those films where you take something different from it every time you watch it as well, or like you'll notice a little something that you didn't notice before.
Yeah.
What about when you were a kid and you watched like Disney films? Were there any scary points as a very young child that you were like, for example, whenever I watched Beauty and the Beast and she goes over to the West Wing and he tells her she's in his room and she's looking around, and then he kind of there's a bit of a jump scare when he like yells at her to get out and she's running. Like that always scared me when I used to wince because I am not very good with men yelling. Like if men raise their voice at me, it really freaks me out. I don't like it. I think that's kind of where it started from. This Beast.
I don't think any Disney films for me, but I did go and see The Little Mermaid at the cinema with my cousin, and she cried at Ursula.
Wait, you saw The Little Mermaid? That came out in like 90...
Yes, you don't need to work out
89. I was going to say it came out before I was born.
Jupiter.
You're not that much older than me.
Yeah, I think it was probably the first film I saw at the cinema, actually.
Oh.
But yeah, she
Quite
cried.
young.
Ursula, what a queen.
Do you know what I remember? I remember being taken. There was some girl in our class. It was her birthday, and her parents decided to take her and a group of friends to the cinema. And looking back, I understand why they probably did it. It's probably very expensive to take a group of kids to the cinema, but what what they did is they took us to the cinema to see Fairy Tale, the movie about, the whether or not fairies exist, but it was kind of like a bit grown up considering we were all about 6. So it was quite a grown up movie, and it was sort of partly in black and white as well, or I remember it in black and white anyway. And I remember sitting there, and it was like really exciting. We were going to the movies, really, really excited. And then we get there, and the movie's a bit boring. And then I'm like, there's no snacks. And then the parents pass around a bottle of water for us all to share between us. Oh. And that was it. There were no popcorn, no little snacks or anything like that. And I totally get that it's expensive. I totally get that. But you could sneak in like some jellied sweets in your pocket or something like that for the kids, Or
at least a bottle of water each, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that, even like a bottle of water each. But it was like, there was like three or 4 of us, and we all shared a bottle of water and watched a black and white film when we were 6.
Did one of you have chickenpox by any chance? Because was this like a secret chickenpox party that parents
Do you
used
think?
to throw?
No. I think the parents probably just either, were trying to do a birthday on a budget, or they were, maybe just really dull people who thought that was okay.
Maybe they
take a load of
still take
6-year-olds
bottles of water to the cinema now.
It's perfectly fine it's totally fine to drink water when you're at the cinema, but if you're taking a load of kids to a birthday party at a cinema and you're like really gassing them up about it, take them to see a kids film. Take them, bring a bottle of water each. I don't know.
Cinema trips are all about the snacks as well, let's be honest.
This was like back in the early 90s when it wasn't too expensive to go to the cinema,
And Panda Pops were 10p.
There's
no excuse for that. Absolutely no.
I mean,
excuse
if you take like
give us a Freddo each,
three kids to the cinema now, might maybe the bottle of water would be handy, but
remortgage time. The thing is, if you have a bottle of outside water now, they'll get you on the cameras, won't they? They'll come charging in.
I took 10 Nando's chicken wings in yesterday.
I don't actually think they care anymore, do they, if you take your own snacks in? I swear,
I don't think so. But they do come in with the binoculars every now and again.
Stung on that one.
What was that?
So we went to go and see a film, and we bought Subway sandwiches, and Mo was feeling really, really gutsy, so wanted a foot long, and I wanted a 6-inch. So I ate my sandwich on the way to the cinema, and he was like, I'm going to eat mine in there, and had it in his hand, and I was like, they won't let you in with a Subway sandwich. The man is going to tell you off. So I was like shoving mine down. He was like, no, it's fine. It's not like that anymore. And then we literally walked in. They were like, sir, you're going to have to eat that outside. And I was like, I told you. But then yesterday I put them in my bag and it was fine. I was snacking on my chicken wings.
I think as long as you're discreet, they're not going to bother, are they?
I guess if you walk in with it like all ballsy and like it's
swinging
hot,
it around
smelly food, then they're going to say,
what he was doing, like swinging it.
Look at everyone, look at my foot long.
Do you remember... Candy, do you remember, maybe I was with you, maybe not, but I remember going to the movies at Western Supermare Odeon, and it was quite empty, and I was seeing Ella Enchanted.
That was not with me.
That was definitely with Candy. Please, just keep that dream going.
But someone was like 2 rows behind us smoking weed in the cinema.
That sounds like the Odeon, doesn't it?
What, to Ella Enchanted?
To watch Ella Enchanted smoking weed. And I also remember, I also remember when one of the Twilight movies came out, like one of the final ones, like part 1 or 2 or something, and I'd gone to go see it in the movies, and I was so excited because I don't read books ever. The only the only books I've ever read and completely finished are the Twilight sagas, only ones I've ever read. And because I worked at a call centre at the time, I got through them. But so when the movie came out, I was really excited to see the movie. And when I was there, it was, it was Twilight, everyone took the piss out of it, but I kind of enjoyed it. And then there was a load of people sat behind us just taking the piss out of the movie the whole time, just absolutely like, out loud taking the piss. And I totally get that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but you've paid to be in the cinema and watch this film and out loud ruining it for everyone by taking the piss. I don't like that. And afterwards, I was so mad that I told them off. I turned around and went, all of you, look at me. You've ruined this for me. I was really looking forward to this. I read the books. I don't read books. I'm dyslexic. But I read the books. I was so excited to see this film. And you've ruined it for me. I hope you're happy with yourselves. And they were so...
Your massive tattoo of Jacob and Edward on your back. Like, this is how much I love them. Whoosh.
I actually got caught going to see... I went to see it. It was the final Twilight film, and I'd gone And
You
it was
got
when I
caught
was,
seeing it.
yeah, it was when I lived in LA. I was like, right, I'm going to go to the cinema by myself. Who am I going to see? I'm in a foreign country. No one's going to catch me. So I sat down, got all comfortable, got my sweets out, and then I hear from like 2 seats down, Joe, Joe. And it was one of my very few friends that I had in LA at the time, and they'd both sneaked in as well, and they got a hip flask to take a shot every time like certain things happened on screen. They're like, do you want to sit with us? I'm like, yeah, don't tell anyone though. Neither should you. So you got
yeah. I'm here like unironically as well.
Yeah, oh absolutely.
I like that Jupiter comes for Harry Potter adults, but has just openly admitted all her Twilight love. Here's looking at you,
Okay,
Mrs.
no, hang on a minute.
Cullen.
Hang on a minute. I don't wear Twilight pajamas.
I bet you do.
Twilight
I bet you
stationery.
do.
I don't have like, Twilight posters or like Twilight mugs. I don't have the merch all over my house.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched Twilight since it came out. I just enjoyed it at the time. Admittedly, I have watched all through it about 2 years ago, and I remember thinking, okay, the first one on its own as a movie, great. Like it just pinpoints a particular time in like my adolescence, that movie. Okay. The rest of it, yeah, complete garbage. It's really bad. I totally get it.
I'm gonna get you Twilight
the Twilight
pajamas.
film's the one with the demon child.
Oh god.
The really bad CGI of the face.
Yeah.
That's-
I showed Gadget and he went, what the hell is that? And I went, oh, it's okay. Don't worry. The wolf's imprinted on the baby now. It's fine. He's like, what?
No.
It's also where I sit and watch Call the Midwife because I kind of enjoy it. And Gadget sits there and goes, what on earth are you watching? I was like, oh, what? And I just tell him the storyline for that week's episode because it's so depressing. Why are you watching this? And I'm like, because the music's uplifting.
Oh, anyway, I hear we've got quite a lot of feedback today, so I think we're just going to stomp on with the main show. But before we do move on, just a bit of regular housekeeping. Smash That Glass is a Modern Escapism network production. We currently have a lineup of 4 regular podcasts, which include our main show, Modern Escapism, Do Dragons Dream with Scorchy, which is a live D&D playthrough, and Deep Dive Lounge by Oodles, which starts again anytime now, I think. In fact, I think he's in the process of recording as we speak. I should say as well, this is our last show, lads. It's been
It
real.
is. We're like a limited BBC series. I like that we've done 6 because it's like, yeah, a limited BBC series. I like that.
Bite-sized.
Yeah.
We're like a commodity.
Leave them wanting more.
If you head over to modernescapism.co.uk, you'll find all our social links and contact details and our Discord. And for £7.50 a month, you'll find all 4 of our podcasts plus any specials, ad-free, a few days early, in our case completely uncensored as part of the Biggie Bundle on Patreon. That's at least 11 podcasts per month. And if you're a new listener, I urge you to check out our sister podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And YouTube. I always forget it. I've been greedy this week. I brought 2 people. Who has heard of Skyrim Grandma?
Hey.
Oh.
Shirley Curry, aka the Skyrim Grandma. Shirley's famous for a YouTube channel where she plays, she basically just plays Skyrim and creates her own stories for her watchers with the characters she's created. So she doesn't play through Skyrim start to finish. She just goes on her little adventures and tells the story to her listeners. And she famously starts all of her videos by saying, "Hello, grandchildren."
Oh.
It's absolutely the most adorable, wholesome
Oh my god, how
thing.
wholesome.
And the fascinating thing about Shirley is she's an impressive 86 years young. God bless her.
Oh, bless her.
She started gaming when her son taught her how to play the 1996 turn-based strategy Civilization 2, and she joined YouTube in 2011, and in 2015 she uploaded her first Skyrim video. By 2020, she had almost 1 million subscribers.
Good morning, grandkids. The first video I uploaded was because the handful of subscribers I had at the time kept at me to record my own gameplay. I thought I like to talk, so I can do this. So I did. And then I went to bed and just didn't think anymore about it.
Hi, this is Grandma Shirley, and I'm playing Skyrim. and I thought I'd like to take you along with me if you'd like to go.
Somebody took it and put it on Reddit, and it went viral. The next morning when I got up and turned on my computer and opened my email, there was thousands of emails on there. And it scared me, and it made me cry, and I didn't know what to do. Most of the comments were nice, but those first few weeks, I got a lot of nasty comments. They would say things like, "You don't belong on here." And then some would say, "Why aren't you sitting in a rocking chair knitting?" I said, "I don't like to knit." And then some of them was really downright vulgar. So I learned to answer them politely, like a grandmother would say something to a child that didn't have any brains. and eventually they learned to treat a grandmother with respect instead of the way they were acting. And it just became a fun place to be then, talking with them. And I never get anything bad anymore.
That's cool.
After her followers started a petition to include her in the next installment in the Elder Scrolls series, Bethesda themselves reached out to her. She visited Bethesda Game Studios, where she met director Todd Howard and the creative 3D team, mapped her face, so the actual proper photo mapping, to include her in the next game. So she is actually going to be in Elder Scrolls 6 when she
is.
When it finally comes out. Ideally hope that she'll get to see herself, because the one wish she has is that she will be able to play Elder Scrolls 6 before she dies. And actually, she has had a few health-related issues in the last year or so. She actually had a stroke in her sleep a couple of months ago, and she lost the ability to play Skyrim for a while. She was really struggling. But she seems to be back on her channel's back, and she's still there saying hello grandchildren to all her followers. So I hope she sticks around for another couple of years.
Oh, absolutely.
That's so cool. That's a big thing for them to get it done.
Exactly.
That is so wholesome. Imagine that being your grandma.
So
my grandma brought an iPad
cool.
because her printer broke. That's what I'm working with.
But yeah, Skyrim Grandma, I think she has something like 10 grandchildren, and she does have great grandkids as well. So she just, in a sea of what feels like a complete just wasteland of toxicity, I think sometimes she's a bit of a shining light for us all, and just real wholesome content as well. And her followers as well, if you look at her YouTube comments, it's very rare that you'll see any trolls, because even the trolls are like, hold up, that's our grandma you're speaking to. So they all come to her rescue. She's got a bit of sass as well. She's a sassy old bird. I remember she had a bit of a strop one time because people didn't understand that she knows how to play Skyrim. She knows where everything is in the game. She's played it multiple times, and a lot of her viewers didn't realise that she was telling her own story rather than playing a game. So when people would say, "You need to open that chest, that's in there," or "You need to go over here, that's where the next part of the story is," she's sort of like, "I know, but my character does not know that. I'm telling a story here."
Oh.
So it finally got to her once, and she stropped off for a month or so, but she's back happily. Just absolute face of sunshine. My main choice this evening is a woman that's just too fucking cool for this earth. And I've spoken about her briefly before on Modern Escapism. And that is the composer and conductor Eimear Noone. Eimear's a award-winning video game music composer and producer. And you can hear her work in Overwatch, Diablo 3, World of Warcraft, and The Legend of Zelda 25th Anniversary CD. And the following Symphony of the Goddess tour, for which she composed a special arrangement of Zelda music. She's conducted the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, the Sydney Symphony, and the Danish National Symphony Orchestra, among others. In February 2020, she became the first woman to conduct at the Oscars, leading the orchestra in excerpts from the 5 nominated film scores. And the way I came to hear of her was last year, and my mum and we went to go see video games in concert at the Royal Albert Hall. We've been to the Final Fantasy one before. This year we're going to John Williams versus Hans Zimmer So we like to do an Albert Hall trip, but my personal favourite ones are the video game ones. And I know the music from the games. My mum doesn't know the music at all, but she can be there and appreciate it and listen to the orchestra. And it's just a really good atmosphere, and just there's nothing quite like feeling the orchestra proper like belt through you. You know, there's something you can actually feel it rather than just hear it. But yeah, we'd gone to this video games in concert show, and when the conductor came on, I was surprised and delighted to find out that not only was it a woman, but she wears this like stunningly gorgeous red steampunk inspired outfit, and it's kind of like this red leather overcoat, black leggings. You have to look her up on the internet because her outfit is just absolutely cool as fuck. Just completely badass as hell. Goals across the board. She's had more than a fair share of discrimination during her career. As of 2018, of the top 150 orchestras in the world, only 4 were led by women.
Wow.
In 2016, Maris Jansen, Royal Philharmonic Society Gold Medal recipient, stated, "Women on the podium aren't my cup of tea." In her early career, when she finally met a conductor that she looked up to and worshipped, he told her that she didn't have a chance, basically. That she had 3 things going against her, and that was that she was young, that she was Irish, and that she's female.
Wow.
So a good little bit of nationalism there as well to throw in. In 2017, Vasily Petrenko of the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic said that men make better conductors, musicians get distracted by a cute girl on the podium. This is 2017.
Real?
That's what I mean.
This
That's
is
not
Like, people
Crazy.
genuinely have these thoughts.
I know, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It's baffling.
Maestros, everything you do, I have done 7 months pregnant and in heels. I don't need rest. I don't want to waste a second. But I love every minute of it.
So in the film Mozart and the Jungle, Eimear was consulted directly to help coach the lead actress in her experiences on what it's like to be a woman on the podium. She's just faced it all. Like I was actually watching an interview, and she said when she was in college, a student in the year above said to her, "Who do you think you are? Who on earth do you think you are setting up an orchestra?" Because, you know, she'd set up her own orchestra and she was ready to go. So, yeah, all of these quotes are from very recent memory, like within the last 10 years. And to that, I say, should be fucking ashamed. And more for them as well for missing out on potentially years and years of talent. Like, give your heads a wobble. Just get things changed, because this kind of thing should not still be happening. Not in 2015, not in 2016, not in 2017. Get things changed. Like, be man enough to take instructions and guidance from a woman, and maybe you would realise that you have missed out on years of talent.
Well, use their own logic against them. I mean, oftentimes men say, you know, women are distracting, women are emotional, is usually the term that they've got. But isn't music about expressing emotion?
Of course
If
it
you
is.
think that bringing a woman on as a conductor is going to take away from the experience, you might well be wrong. It would probably add to it, because you would have their experience, their background, and oftentimes people who are a minority often have a different point of view and a fresh take to show you. If you want change, if you want something interesting, do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Just stop living in this, you know, stuffy, probably white guy. I don't want to say it, but we know it's true. You know, boomer stage.
Ugh, I live with one of them. I live with a white guy. Ugh. Cis white male.
Gross.
Ugh. I remind him all the time he's cis and white and male. Ugh.
What do you know? But she made this really beautiful and inspiring speech about her career and her experience as a keynote speaker in Dublin's International Women's Day celebration in 2018. And if I can suggest one piece of hers to listen to, it's Malak from World of Warcraft. It's this really beautiful, haunting piece of music.
I'll add it to my playlist now.
Add it to your playlist.
I'm writing it down.
I will probably drop a bit of music in here, but I will say, Blizzard, please do not sue us. I know you love to sue people, but please, we're just showing off your people's talent. So I'm going to drop a little bit in here. Please be nice. So that's Malak from World of Warcraft. I've always said that for me, the music can make or break a game. Some soundtracks just make the hair on your arms just really stand up, and Malak is one of those pieces. And take, for example, I talked about it last week, take, for example, the game Journey. I don't think that would have been such a moving and powerful game had it not been for its soundtrack. Or recently, the theme for God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that goes straight through you. Like, it's Bear McCreary is the composer on that one, and he's done multiple soundtracks, including, I think he worked on Lord of the Rings, and you'll see his name crop up time and time again. But the main theme from Ragnarok, even if you haven't played the game, give it a listen. But also do play the game, because it's bloody fantastic.
Music from Last of Us. I watched the first episode on Monday.
Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, last night. It came out on Monday. And that music's beautiful. It took me right back. And also, I realised that when I watched Gadget play through The Last of Us, it was pre-pandemic, so it was really weird watching it post-pandemic.
That's a good
and
point,
thinking,
actually. Because
oh,
when
this is
first,
weird.
Yeah, it first came up, was it 10 years ago, I think?
Well, 2012 it first came out, and then it was re-released in 2014, 15, wasn't it? It was released just before the PS4 came out.
Originally,
it was one of the last big games of the PS3.
Yeah. And then it was re-released PS4, I can't remember when, but it was sometime later.
It was like 2014, 2015.
Yeah, and then is there a PS5 version now?
Yes, yeah. They've made the characters like Tess and whatever look like they do in Last of Us Part. Look, not Tess, Ellie.
That's right.
And the others look more like what they do in Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
So there's a bit more continuity if you wanted to play 1 and 2 now.
Which you should.
It would look like the same game in one big flow.
Yeah.
I highly recommend that as well.
But yeah, absolutely beautiful, haunting. Just acoustic guitar music, and that's like just one instrument sometimes is all it takes to be effective. Another beautiful score is Ori and the Blind Forest, and Ori and Will of the Wisps as well. That's a really sort of ethereal sounding. If you could imagine the sound of a rainforest, it would be that. And it's really pretty. I've never completed any of the Ori games, and I just know that it's a heartbreaking game just from the soundtrack. It's stunning. If you want to know a bit more about Eimear Noone, you can find her. I don't know if it's still going, but you can certainly find it on Catch Up. You can find her on Classic FM, the Classic FM show High Score, which features orchestral arrangements of video game music. And apparently a documentary about her life is currently in production as well. So that would be one
cool.
Yeah, one to watch. But oh my god, she's just so cool. Absolute woman crush. Just have a look at her outfit.
I googled a picture of her. She looks really fucking cool.
Yeah. Oh, I was just so excited as well because I was excited to go to the show, and me and my mum were sat down, and the conductor came on, and I nudged my mum. I was like, "It's a girl! It's a girl! It's a girl! It's a girl!"
Could you put together a Spotify playlist of all these songs?
Oh,
but like all the ones that you like, the ones that you think the people should know about from different games, and put it together in a little Spotify playlist so that anyone who maybe doesn't pay attention to this can like just sit and listen to the playlist that you have curated.
Funnily enough,
be a little conductor of yourself.
Yeah, funnily enough, I have got a little tiny curation on the go at the moment, and I'll share it with you all. But I'll add more. It's in production at the moment, shall we speak? But yeah, you don't have to be a fan of video games to appreciate music.
What would you call your compilation?
Oh, it's called Video Game Bangers. I'll think of a better name for it. I mean, it sums it up. It's bangers from video games. But yeah, that's my two women of note this week. And sorry I've been greedy with it, but before we went out with a bang, I wanted to mention these two lovely ladies, because both cool as hail.
So, general feedback?
Yeah, so I asked. I didn't ask for a particular question this week. I just wanted to know your general feedback about the show.
So Stig said, it's been great listening. I've really enjoyed finding out about some of the women in history, and you all have such natural chemistry with each other. Oh. I've enjoyed laughing along to some of the absolute wild stories, and I really hope we get more. Then we've got Zenos put, nice work. I'll admit there's been a few bits I've had to skip because I can't afford to let my brain get hold of an image in case I can't get it back out again. Case in point from episode 4, the javelin neck injury. But you've all done a really good, solid job with this, and it's obvious how much you're enjoying it.
Of all the stories we've told, the javelin through the neck is the one he couldn't listen to. I mean, fair enough.
Well, thank you, Stig. It was really nice to hear that feedback. And yeah, I wonder if there's... I was thinking if there's anything, because obviously this is the last episode, so if there's anything, any kind of funny stories that we've got that we were like, I'm surprised I haven't said this yet.
I've got one, and I'll share it now, and this is one of AcidxPearl's favourites, and AcidxPearl's husband's favourites as well.
Oh,
And
I know what it is!
Remember, Jupiter, you said the other day that you'd booked all your jabs and your things that you have
Smear
to do
test.
as a smear
You
test.
can say
booked
smear
your
test.
Smear test. So
I need to part my legs. I need to be split, clipped, and snipped.
and just pop up on the couch. Always just popping up, isn't it? Just pop up.
Yeah, just pop up on the couch and pop your legs open and just pop your heels into your bum.
So I had to go to the doctors with classic women's problems, and it's a lady doctor, and it was first thing in the morning, and I explained what was going on, and she went through all my
By the way,
symptoms and
listeners,
everything.
listeners who don't have this happens occasionally. Sometimes you just get random bleed. It just randomly happens, and you have to go get it checked out because, yeah, and
Bleeding
most of the time
generally doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. And if you've got a lady doctor, they're quite sympathetic. But sometimes you get a male doctor, and genuinely, even in 2023, you will have a doctor who just goes, "Women bleed, I guess." They just, yeah, they don't. If it's a female problem, it never gets taken seriously, in my opinion.
So I had a very lovely female doctor, and I can tell you why she was very lovely in a second. So she's like, right, well, we can do a smear test for you now if you like. We'll just get it all done and send the results off and see how we go. And I said, well, the thing is, I'm on my period, so I don't know if we can. And she said, oh, is it particularly heavy? And I replied and said, not particularly hairy, no. But the thing is, it's not like I misheard her. I didn't hear her ask me, is it particularly hairy? I just said hairy instead of heavy. And
No.
it was like the first floor of a doctor's of surgery, and I looked at the window, and I looked at her, and I looked at the window again. I was like, can I just jump out? And she was
Did
just,
she laugh?
She didn't laugh.
Did she laugh?
I even said to her, yeah, that was funny. You can laugh at that. There was maybe a little twitch at the side of the... She was very professional. But I hope to God at the doctor's Christmas party, she told that one. I was like, if anything good comes from this story, hopefully she got a bit of mileage from the... Not particularly hairy, no.
Not particularly hairy, no. We literally say it all the time as well now.
So that was one of my most embarrassing but hilarious... Because it just slipped out. Excuse the pun. It just slipped out. Not particularly hairy, no. So that's the one story I really did want to share whilst we still had the air.
I mean, you know me, I've got loads of embarrassing stories. I've got the Sam Bay fire engine story that I know you all love with the quiche.
I think you should tell the
I
Sandbay
think you
story.
should, because I love it.
With the quiche.
I don't know it.
Buckle up.
So I was you may not know this, but it might be hard to believe, but I was a reasonably promiscuous kind of teenager, early 20s kind of person.
Kind of guy.
And I was kind of guy. And I was dating a guy who to be honest, I was going up in the world because I was working at B&Q, and I had gone from dating the decor guys to dating the hardware guys to dating the kitchen designers. Yeah, I was going up in the world. He designed kitchens. He worked with the software. He was fancy. Anyway, dating this guy, couldn't get any privacy at home, so we decided to go for a drive round where we lived, which was where I lived, which is also where Candy and AcidxPearl live, which is Weston-super-Mare. And there's an area called Sam Bay, and it's tucked away behind behind Uphill, really, isn't it? So it's you got to go down the toll road to get there, which is basically a really precarious road that's on a cliff edge in the dark, and quite a lot of people kind of get injured down there because they go a bit too fast and they go straight off the cliff into the sea. There's not a lot of safety. It's quite a scary road, especially if you first learn to drive. People are quite scared to go down that road. Anyway, we drove down there and we ended up going over to the Sand Bay, which is a kind of the secondary beach to Weston-super-Mare. And there's a lot of car parking down there, and it's at night, and we go looking for somewhere private so we can just park up, chat, make out in the car. So we find somewhere, we park up, we chat, we make out in the car.
Popular dogging area as well, I hear.
It is literally a dogging area.
Well, that's the thing. So we end up kind of getting into it, and a car pulls in and starts flashing their lights at us. And we were like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. We hide under my coat, and the car just sits there for ages flashing at us, and then eventually kind of does a loop around the car park and then leaves. The person in there gets out briefly and then gets back in their car and then leaves, and we were like, God, dodge a bullet, thank God for that. So, we finish up and we carry on talking for a bit, and then we decide to go home. But then when we get to the gate, we realise that it's locked. That person flashing us wasn't, a dodgy person wanting to watch. It was the ranger telling us, we're going to be closing this car park, you better leave. So we were locked in this car park with no signal, absolutely nothing. We couldn't get out. It was the middle of nowhere. It's in the dark. It's off-peak season, so none of the local hotels or anything like that are open, and we are freaking out. So I noticed that there was a bit of a gap in the hedgerow between a tree and a hedge, and I grabbed some scrap wood that was on the side of the car park and used that to push the bush back and think, well, we'll just squeeze out in the hedge, that's fine, we'll just squeeze the car out through there. Little did I notice that there was a ditch, and the car got stuck in the ditch, and we were like, oh, for fuck's sake. So we're stuck in this ditch. I'm on the outside, he's on the inside, panicking. I end up trying to break a branch to try and make the gap wider, and that kind of doesn't really work. And eventually we kind of concede that we're going to have to ask for help. We're stuck. I'm out of the car. He's in the car. He's essentially stuck in a tree because the snapped off branch had gotten caught in the window. So the car was wedged against the tree. And so we end up kind of ringing the emergency services because we didn't know what else to do. Okay, admitted I was 19, so I just was being stupid. I didn't know. Or maybe I was 18. So we ring the emergency services. I say to them, look, it is an emergency because we're kind of stuck in a tree and in the middle of nowhere. But, if someone's in a burning building, please go get them first. And anyway, so they say, we're sending someone down to come and help you because essentially we needed to be cut free. And about 15-20 minutes later, all I hear are 2 massive fire engines come screaming down the road. Because I had given them the location of the toll road, or just off of the toll road, they thought that we were stuck in a tree hanging over the cliff. They didn't realise that we were further down in the car park. So they thought, oh my God, these teenagers are about to fall into the cliff. So they sent 2 fire engines, and probably about 5 firemen in each. They all climb out. They realise what we've done. They kind of go, oh, for fuck's sake, stupid kids. They cut us free. And eventually break open the lock of the gate and let us out. And as I'm getting back into the car and he's kind of signing whatever he needs to sign with them, I hear one of them go, isn't this the docking car park? And it was so embarrassing. Anyway, the next day I had to go to the fire depot station. Thank you. I went to the fire station and I had to go and give them some money to pay for the lock that we had to have cut. I think it was their way of punishing us. And I was always raised to be like, you don't turn up empty-handed. So on the way to the fire station, I was thinking, oh, what do I get? And I kind of left it all to the last minute, and so I ended up grabbing a quiche out of the fridge that my mum had put aside for dinner. And I just grabbed a quiche and kind of just put it on something to make it look like I made it myself, and turned up with some money and a quiche and an apology.
I'd have been quite chuffed with the quiche.
Yeah, someone turned around and said, here's some money for the lock and here's a quiche.
It's a quiche for your troubles.
A quiche for your troubles.
Guilty quiche.
And then they all just looked at me really confused and bemused as why they've been given a quiche.
I wish I got given a quiche more often.
Yeah.
Really? It wasn't a homemade quiche. It was like a packet quiche as well. It wasn't like a nice, fluffy homemade one.
No, I take a cake over a quiche.
I think the fireman probably would as well, but still, you didn't go empty-handed.
No,
I'd take the fireman.
Yeah.
Let's have a little look. Where did we get down to? Here we go. So then we got Planty. So Planty said, I've been delighted with the podcast. Although not aimed at me, I've really enjoyed the stories and snort laughed a few times. Most importantly, I've recommended Smash That Glass to my sister and friends. So hopefully I've got you a few listeners there.
Well, thank you, Planty. But actually, it is aimed at you. The whole point of the podcast, we thought, wasn't for other women to listen. So often, all female podcasts or all female media, it's assumed that it's for women. It's not. Why can't men listen to an all-female podcast about women? You know, you may feel like the stories don't necessarily resonate with you, but actually, a lot of what we're telling you is important for men to know as well as women. So this isn't a female podcast for women to listen to. Like, we originally wanted it as something for men to listen to and be a part of. So yeah, invite your sister, but it's for you too.
Hey, listen!
Hi folks, Candy here. The following segment contains chat of IVF struggles, fertility issues and miscarriage. If you prefer not to listen, please skip ahead to 1 hour, 6 minutes and 25 seconds.
I'll tell you what, I've not kept any secrets about it in the Discord, but all the problems that we've had with our infertility, to be fair, the most people that have kind of DM'd me or messaged me or spoken to me have actually been guys where they've just messaged and said like, yeah, we've been there, you know, it's been tough, keep going, and people have said we're just about to go through it, or we're struggling, like, and asking for help. So I think some of the stories that we have, like even your one, Candy, just then, of you sort of, you know, like what did you say, midweek weeding, like things like that. There's stuff that actually, if you know your partner or someone like that says that they're having the same sort of thing, like you could probably say, oh, do you know what? There was a lass that I was listening to on my podcast. He said the exact same thing. Go get that shit checked out, and you know, is it hairy? You know,
not particularly.
It doesn't matter if it is hairy; they don't mind.
No, they don't. They've seen. Although to be fair, like I've had so many people look at my chuff over the years now for all the stuff that I've been through, and I said to one of the nurses, "Oh, I bet when you've seen one, you've seen so many." And she went, "No." I was like, "Oh shit!"
That's like the worst thing you can say.
Don't say
just
that
lie.
now. Yeah, just say, "Oh, they all look the same to me, love." No. She was like, nope, you still get that one or two that terrify you. I was like, oh no, that's going to be
one
me.
that's got teeth in.
Yeah.
I imagine it's the ones that, like, most of them you reach into and then they release you. It's the ones that won't release you that are probably terrifying. If you're like a gynecologist or a doctor and you're reaching in and it pulls you in, that must be terrifying.
Yeah.
That must be terrifying.
What happened?
I don't know, a strong pelvic floor might be a
they've
little
got,
bit
like,
of a pull.
an emergency cord or something to pull if that happens? Like if they're going in,
So
Help!
they got the bell.
I think they have to do what you do in quicksand, like try and grab a tree root or something.
What, take your
just to
shoes
hold
off and
yourself
start
some
floating?
brace.
Like that big light that they shine right
Don't
up
panic, it senses danger, it senses panic.
Do you think that's why they always insist on bringing student nurses in as well? Like every single time they're like, do you mind if we have some student nurses in? A whole like bunch of them come in. Do you think that's actually to form a human chain in case somebody starts to go in?
Leave a trail of breadcrumbs.
Led there with your feet in stirrups, just entirely. I don't even give a shit anymore. Like, I'm just like, yeah, sure. I haven't gone through infertility issues. I'm just a woman with a. And I'm sat there with my feet in stirrups, and they're like, "Do you mind if we bring some students in?" I was like, "Yeah, if you want a gaggle of people to stare at my shit splitter, sure, that's fine."
Well, we always joke that when baby Stuarticus was conceived, there was like. Well, there was about 7 people in the room, and the closest person to my vagina was an Asian man. And he was close enough to hear the echo of him talking. So yeah, it was magical.
How does it work? Is it conceived in the petri dish, or is it conceived?
So day of conception is actually the old potato baster, turkey baster, and the egg, and they just.
And then you watch the cells divide, and then once they've divided enough, and they're and they're happy
That's
that
it.
it's
So you
strong,
wait either
then they
3 or
put the
5
divided
days.
cells in.
Yeah, that's literally
Tell
it.
you what, for our listeners, would you mind just giving a very quick, this is how it works? Because I hear about fertility stuff all the time, but I'm always very curious as to what stage of the party does it enter the room, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So basically, you depend on what kind of like thing you go for. So if you're doing like a fresh egg collection, so you have lots and lots of injections that you got to do timed for about 2 weeks, and that makes your body go and make lots of eggs, and then
Or
about
release
2
lots of
weeks
eggs
in-
rather than make them, because for men
Well,
listening, we don't
make
make eggs,
them.
we release them.
Well, you develop them. So you have follicles, which are these little like sacs, and in each tiny follicle is a little tiny egg. So usually when you ovulate, you get one follicle that goes blub, and then out pops an egg, and that travels down the fallopian tube and off it goes, yeah? Mm-hmm. But when you go through IVF, they stimulate you. So they make you make lots of follicles to develop, and they measure them every couple of days to see how big they're getting. And each follicle, once it gets to about 18 millimeters big, then that means that egg is probably ripe enough that they can extract it. So they count how many eggs, how many follicles you have. And if you have over a certain amount, then they go, yeah, IVF, let's go for it. So, like, I know people that have been hyperstimulated, like I was at one point. So that happened to me once, and they wouldn't give me the trigger shocks. They were like, because that was when I was going through like medication, like natural conception, which is like, it's called timed intercourse. So that means that you stimulate yourself, release the egg, they give you a trigger shot which makes you release eggs, and they'll only let you do that if you get stimulated a little bit. So that means if you have 3 or less follicles, otherwise you can end up with multiple babies. So when you go for IVF though, they want you to make as many as possible, so they literally get you to make as many as possible. So some ladies, bless them, can make anywhere between 20-30 follicles split between the 2 ovaries. But unfortunately for us, the most follicles we ever had was 7. And then when they went in to collect these eggs, they only ever found out that I didn't make eggs properly. So even when I had 7 follicles, I only got 2 eggs out, and they were always shit. So it meant that when they were trying to get them to fertilise, they wouldn't, because they would divide abnormally and all the rest of it. So what you do is you stimulate yourself, and then 2 weeks later they do a trigger shot, which has to be on the dot, exactly timed, exactly right. So if they say you do your trigger shot at 10 p.m. on a Saturday, that means that they're going to go in and do the procedure to get them out at 10 a.m. on the Monday. It's down to the minute. So you have to take it at the right time. Wow. So you go in, and they put a little drip in your hand for you to have all the pain relief and all the rest of it. So they partially sedate you, which, like, I've never taken drugs, but the only thing I can compare it to was when they put that stuff in you. You do feel it, because I remember at one point when they were going in, it felt like a popping where they were going into the follicles to retrieve the eggs out, and that was kind of painful. When they get the eggs out, and you've literally, while I was in, had like completely off my tits having this done, poor old Mary would then have to go into the room and go and do his deed. And then he would do that bit, knowing, bless him, that I was in the room next door off my tits. Because when I was in there, because it was during COVID and everything was still in lockdown, and I remember being so off my tits, I was like, wow, I'm in a nightclub. And I remember saying to everyone, like, we shouldn't be in here, there's too many people in here. And they were like, SuperNattyCat, it's fine. And I was like, no, it's way too many people. And they were all wearing, like, obviously scrubs and Crocs. And I was like, I love your heels. I love your heels. And she was like, my love, I'm wearing Crocs. Do you really like them? And I was like, yeah, they're stunning. I love them. And so she wheeled me out. And I was just like, wow, there's so many people in here. And she was like, there's only a couple. So that's it then. That's day 1 done. You're not allowed to drive for a day after, because obviously you've been sedated. But the second time I went in, they just knocked me straight out. The last thing I remember saying was, what anaesthetic are you using? And then they said, oh, why'd you ask? And I was like, oh, I'm an optician. I use anaesthetic. Out. And then the next thing I remember was them unfortunately telling us that even though we had 7 follicles and we were pinning all our hope on that, they said, unfortunately, we've only got 2 eggs out again, which is what we had from the first round. So we were like, fuck shit. So that one ended, and I can remember the bad news, but because I was still like off my tits, I can't really remember much after that, apart from walking out and we had a parking fine because they spent so long trying their best to, yeah, man. So what you do then, the following day, you get a phone call, and they tell you how many of your eggs have fertilized and how many have died. So first time we had a 50% hit, so we got 1 embryo out of 2. Second time we got 2 for 2. And then you basically have a phone call then on day 3 to tell you if any of your embryos have survived to day 3. So both times we had embryos go to day 3, but they were really shitty. So when they were dividing, they weren't dividing properly. So they were like, they're not going to make it to day 5. We just got to chuck them in and hope for the best. So unfortunately, that meant didn't work. So both times that we had those implanted, that was it. So I had a really good nurse, and she was amazing. And she told me after my first round of IVF, when I was going through it and none of my eggs were coming up, she said, my love, I think we need to start thinking about using a donor. So this is basically a lovely person that's been through what you've been through, but she had eggs to spare. So rather than just chuck them in the bin, she's gone, do you know what? If I can avoid another lady going through what I've been through, let's give them to someone else who needs them. And hence me. So we had that. So day 3, they put them in. Day 5, if you can get them to that stage, that's called blastocyst stage. Now the chance of you having a baby from an IVF procedure on a 5-day blastocyst is way higher. And there's all these letters and numbers that grade how good the embryos are. So you're pinning everything on the grade of these embryos at day 3 or day 5. So they're either like a 3A, or they'll be like a 5AA or a 5AB or a 6A, a C or CC. And the higher the letter in the alphabet, the better the quality. So we unfortunately still didn't work on the first go, and they just said that's just bad luck. Second go with a blastocyst, we conceived, which was great. But then unfortunately at the 3-month scan, they told me that the baby was too deformed, and they gave us the decision then to what to do next. So that obviously ended in a lot of heartache. So we had to make the decision to terminate, which was really sad. And then time number 3 is Stuarticus. So yeah, so he's doing really well. But
how
IVF is a
many months
fantastic...
pregnant are you now?
I'm 21 weeks. 21 weeks tomorrow.
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah, which is amazing. So 5 and a bit months. But if anybody's really interested in this sort of stuff, there's a fantastic documentary by the Welsh presenter from the One Show, Alex Jones, and she actually goes into all the stories to do with IVF. There's loads and loads of Instagram accounts. There's a very, very good one called hoping_for_a_baby, who's gone through pretty much the same thing that I have. And she's on Instagram, and she's using a donor as well. She's doing it a slightly different way to me. So yeah, she's really good to look at as well. But there's lots that people don't understand about IVF. Absolutely full on. So anybody that's actually going through it, like, I'm glad you asked about it, but anybody who's actually going through it, open for business. I'm totally up there to talk about it, because anything that you've been through with IVF, I've done it. We've done it. Me and my fella, we've had everything poked and prodded and looked at. And
what's your advice for people who are just about to start it, or maybe they're thinking, oh, we're struggling, we might have to start looking into this, or even people who are like halfway through it and not getting any success?
Lots of people say the wrong thing when you're going through IVF. Like, lots of people say, just relax. Like, so-and-so down the road, they went on holiday and they were trying for ages, and then whoops, they had a baby. And you go, that's lovely, that's great, that's not going to ever happen for me. And then another one is like, oh, it just takes 1 egg. Well, for me, it fucking didn't, because my eggs were shit. So it doesn't just take 1 egg.
Yeah.
Other things like, so-and-so, they just stopped drinking, and they lost weight, and then they caught straight away. Or they'll say, oh, they tried IVF lots. But it's always coming from a place of love. People are trying to help you. So my advice would be to everyone that's going through it, just little steps, just look for the next step. Whatever the next step is, you just go, right, that's the next thing. So if it's right, let's just do one more day of injections. Let's get the injections, then do the transfer. Let's get through the transfer. Oh, look, we've got some eggs. Right, let's just Let's just see how many fertilise. Just keep going each little tiny little step, because each little step you go, even if it doesn't work, and this is something that my husband kept saying to me, and actually looking back was the best fucking advice ever. Every moment that we got that little bit further each time that we did a different mechanism or a different technique, or we used a smaller catheter or whatever, it was one step towards where we are now. And fingers crossed, fucking hell, everything goes okay. But yeah, just keep looking, little tiny steps. Don't think about your end goal, which is really hard to do, because that could be 2-3 years off, as in our case. And if you told me at the beginning this is going to take 3 fucking years before you might even have a chance of having a baby, then God knows. Whereas, you know, if you just think, right, let's just get to the next little bit, just keep going, because everybody's got hope. I'm a fucking walking proof of it at the moment. So yeah. So we've got Gadget. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to you all. I've learned a few things, not only about women of note, but about you lot. I don't think I'm ever going to recover from knowing about Candy shitting in a wine box.
I really hope
ladies, please keep it up. I'm never ever going to forget that.
No, never. I will say I have to issue a formal retraction for Gadget. Last episode, I perhaps insinuated that he really likes big titty porn. And
turns out he's more of an ass man.
He's actually more of an ass man. But he was furious because he said in his podcast it was brought up, and now it's becoming a thing that he really is into big tit porn. Which, to be honest, out of all the porns that you could be into, it's not that offensive. But yeah, he doesn't want to be known as the big tit porn guy. He is not into big tit porn. That was entirely made up off the top of my head. And he is the, golden retriever of boyfriends, that man. That's why it was funny. But yeah, the retraction has been issued, Gadget. Can I please have all my pocket money back now, please?
Formally taken back.
It's formally taken back. Can I be out? Can I be out of the doghouse now, please?
We've got a bit of feedback from Cam. So Cam says, Cam,
we love Cam.
As I don't always register what I read, I did not realise until today that the podcast was only going to be 6 episodes. I do hope you are considering doing more episodes after the last one. I have truly enjoyed this podcast, one of the very few I actually bother to listen to. That's awesome. Thank you to the awesome women in the group. Loved listening to you.
Oh, thank
That's
you,
wicked
Cam.
feedback.
We love you.
Oh, so lovely. Thank you, Cam.
We've
Maybe. I'll see if we can be bothered.
Candy's not ready to end
We've
it
also
all.
got Nimrod Hicks. Nimrod Hicks says, ashamedly, due to the Christmas period and built up being crunch in my line of work, I am behind on all my podcasts and I've only so far listened to 2 episodes of Smash That Glass thus far. However, I have hugely enjoyed listening to your collective voice and I sincerely hope you continue. If I was going to suggest someone to cover, then I would proffer Miss Nina Simone, a sublime artist and person who has had a great influence on my life. Yeah. I recommend looking at Mississippi Goddamn and her version of Dylan's classic, The Ballad of Hollis Brown, just for starters.
Amazing voice.
And that's it for feedback. Thank you, everyone. It's been lovely reading the
Thank you so much for the feedback. Thank you. And you would have had a historic woman, but unfortunately, I'm just very bad at my homework. And every episode we have recorded, I've started recording and then said, can I just have 2 minutes whilst I hastily write some notes?
After begging.
After begging for your own section.
After saying, I don't really,
We're here
I could do
award
history.
Jupiter with Miss Diva of the season.
Do we have any Just Askers?
Aye. So let's have a little look. So we have an anonymous. So first one. Oh, we've actually got like a little timeline here. Background first. My girlfriend and I have been together since 2013, although it's a long distance relationship because we've never been able to afford our own place. She lives in Cornwall, while I'm in the southwest of England, not far from Wales. We have discussed marriage several times. She knows I'm planning to propose when the time is right and has already said it's going to be a yes. Hooray. My dad's dad passed away late last year and we've just had our offer to buy out his bungalow from the rest of the inheritors accepted, with the intention of selling our current house to move in there. It's much closer to work for all of us and there's no stairs to worry about for my sister who has a muscular disorder. We're going to renovate the place and put up what would effectively be a granny annex in the garden for me and my girlfriend to move into, so we've got more independence from my parents and actually have our own space. The mortgage for the bungalow would be in my name because the terms come out much better that way due to my parents' ages, though, so I'm tied to it long term. That's not really an issue since I would own the place personally when my parents pass, and we could always sell and move at that point. The thing is, my girlfriend suffers from quite serious anxiety, and I think the fact that our offer has been accepted has made her panic and feel like this is all imminent and about to change suddenly, although it's actually likely going to be months until anything happens. That is very true. It's very, very slow. After one conversation with her mum a week or so ago, she's decided she doesn't want to move up here for the foreseeable future. Although I understand her concerns with regards to having lived mostly independently for the last few years and not having spent much time actually staying in the same place because we can only be together when we can book time off work, I have a suspicion that the actual reason she's suddenly on edge about it is that she's talked to her mum specifically. Now, while she's a lovely woman, my girlfriend's mother moves between relationships like the puck on an air hockey table, and she's a terrible barometer for relationship success. My girlfriend knows this and has tried to talk her out of the constant rebound several times, but she never listens. I'm worried that her bad experiences with trying to have partners move in with her are affecting my girlfriend's decision, and I can't work out if there's a good way to bring this idea up. I have suggested that she talk to her dad for his perspective on it. Her parents are no longer together and he's in a stable, long-term relationship and has children with his partner, but I don't think being more direct about it is a good idea. I think she will probably come back around to it at given time, but do you think there's any polite way I can suggest that her mum's opinion might not be the best measure of how well this will work?
Yeah. Oh, I would say, first off, there's never a polite way to say that. Sometimes it's something that's just left unsaid. Unfortunately, if she goes to her mum for advice, they obviously have a relationship where she feels like she wants her mother's advice, or maybe she's just had a chat with her mum and she's gotten that. But if you say that she often tries to talk her mum out of these decisions or these relationships or moving new boyfriends in, she clearly has her head screwed on, because she can see from an outside perspective what happens when you're being a bit rush and brash with relationships. However, you say you've been together since 2013, so that's quite a long time. You know each other well, and you clearly know her very well. I think you're right. You know her better than anyone else. She'll probably come around to it. I think perhaps once you've bought the place, maybe once you've done the granny annex, she starts to see the place become more of a, tangible thing, because at the moment it's all just an idea in the head. She doesn't really know what it's going to look like. So once you get going with doing it up and building this home, and she starts to see it, she'll go, actually, that's feeling more and more like my home. The more you involve her at her own pace and know that she's not rushed into it, she'll probably come around to the idea a lot more now. I think it's all just a big step, and it's feeling like as soon as we buy the house, I've suddenly got to move my life and live with you. Maybe once you buy the house, you can say, okay, we'll just move in when you feel like the house is in a position that you're comfortable to live in it, and we'll just take your lead. Give her the power back, because at the moment it's your house, your family, your granddad's house. It's all very much your world and not hers, and she's expected to kind of step into it. And that's a big ask for someone, especially if you've had a long distance relationship as well, and she's always been quite independent. So I would say just lead by example, create this home however you see fit, and at some point down the line she'll see it and go, oh, I feel quite comfortable moving into that now. And it might be that, once you start building the granny annex is when she feels comfortable moving in. Or it might be once you bought it and she comes around a couple of weekends here and there to help you decorate, that she starts to sort of see the home as her own. But right now it's your granddad's house with your parents living in it, and in her head she'll be living in a shed in the garden. That's quite a big ask to ask someone, especially if they're quite an anxious person anyway. So if you're saying you want her to not consider her mother's advice, or rather not use her mum as a particularly good barometer, I don't think there's ever an easy way to say that. And I don't really think it's you'd be putting yourself in a very precarious position to say that, because no matter how you say it or how nicely you say it, it will get back to the mother, and the mother will say, who do you think you are? And then it ruins the relationship. So maybe that's one of the things you just keep to yourself, and you just lead by example. And if her mother is scatty as you say she is, then you providing a stable, safe, dependable home is something that I, personally for me, I would want to go to rather than listening to the advice of someone who's always bed hopping, as you say. What do you guys think?
I would agree. I would say when she starts coming round for a couple of weekends, get her to bring some of her own stuff down as well. Get her to choose some throw pillows,
And some furniture, yeah,
just so it's her. She feels like it's her home. You don't need to spell it out as such, but just suggest she brings some personal items down just to make the place feel more homely. And I think it might take a little bit of time. I think if I was suddenly thrust into a situation that I had always planned and yet it's still happening right now, I would want to pump the brakes a little bit as well. And, it's a massive change. You've been together 7 years, but you've never lived together. That's a huge change. And she's moving away from her family. So just make it feel like home for her. Just have her over when you can at the weekends. Get her to do it up the way she would like. And then it slowly becomes her home too. It's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't need to. You're in a stable relationship. You've been together 7 years. It doesn't matter if it doesn't happen overnight, but it'll happen.
She's like a little and this is, I promise you, a flattering analogy. She's like a little stray cat, and you wouldn't just go out, grab the cat and pull him into your house and go, this is your home now. You would, you would introduce yourself, you would coax them in, you would, nice things happen when you're here, and like, it's nice and warm and safe and comfortable, and you can leave anytime you want, and you can come in anytime you want, and it starts to become a safe place, and it's not a scary place, and she's in control. A lot of the time, people who have anxiety is a fear of a lack of control. And so, yeah, if she's moving into your world and leaving her own behind, it's a lack of control that she's probably frightened of the most.
That's a good one.
I've lived with a partner with his parents, and my God, that was horrific. Personally, I wouldn't do it, but I'm sure your parents are lovely. And they're probably very nice and well behaved and respectful of privacy and boundaries and things, but I've done it, and it is hard work, especially when they're not your family, so they do things differently to what you would do. It is hard work sometimes, so just be mindful that you're asking a lot of her. Be patient and let it go on her terms a little bit.
Next one. This year will be my 12th anniversary with my wife. I really want to do something great for her and special, but I'm a man, and I want it to lead to sexy time. What event plan could I do that would lead to her jumping on me? A trip, a holiday, or a gift? What would persuade you guys? And he's put, that's a genuine question. Haha, is it appropriate?
Oh, it doesn't matter at this point, does it? We are the inappropriate cast. What would make me immediately want to jump the bones of somebody I've been with for 12 years? I can't say because I have never been with anyone for 12 years.
I'm pretty much just a warm body and I'm happy. Or maybe not drugs. Maybe not drugs.
In the house. Like effort in the house.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, oh, nice tidy house. This is nice. And I wouldn't instantly think that means that they want something. I just think, oh, that's a lovely gesture. Nice clean house when you come home from work. And then a surprise of some description. Maybe like nothing big. Maybe like a little present. Something really thoughtful. From like that reminds you of when you first got together. Like something from like one of the first times you were away together completely on your own. Something that reminds you of that. Like maybe just a night booked away for the first place that you went away together on your own. And then you go there, and then that would be nice.
Wow, yeah, it would be like either a night or a weekend away in a nice hotel with a good cocktail bar, nice clean sheets. If we're talking sexy terms, I think that would do it for me. Preferably a spa hotel, because then you're already in your dressing gowns, aren't you?
Or a cute little cabin. But if you've gone there first, like make a cheeky little surprise. Maybe there's some cute shit going on. Got me.
I think we have to come up with some ideas that are like budget friendly as well, because although it'd be nice to go away for a night or two, but not.
Well, SuperNattyCat said the tidy in the house and the little gift.
Yeah. Well, so what I would say is that, 12 years is a long time, and the fact that you are thinking, I want it to lead to this, the woman knows you. She knows you want it to lead to that. So remove that from your brain entirely, and you will more likely get it if you don't make it so obvious that that's what you want. I'm not one to talk, because I think if we were Gadget and I think I'm probably more like the guy in the relationship, and I'm usually able to persuade him.
I'm the guy too.
you may want to cut that. You may get mad. But it's the mental load often, so it's difficult for some women to kind of relax and give over to sexy times. It's hard for women to give over to that when they're thinking to themselves, right, I've got to do the school uniforms, and I've got to do the laundries, and I've got to get up for this, and I've got to go do that. Their brain is so busy with the mental burden of everything. If you alleviate that mental burden and then both go and have like a romantic meal, or you get rid of the kids for a night, and everything's off her plate and she's got nothing to sort of distract herself with, you're more likely to get that, because she will truly feel relaxed. Making a nice meal and saying, I put a wash load on and I've made a nice meal, and I've gotten rid of the kids for the night. She's still gonna be sat there going, but I've got to do the uniforms, we've got sandwiches, and I've got to do this, and I've got to go do that. Like, it's a lot. So on the week leading up to it, or a couple of days leading up to it, just start removing things from that mental load. It's not something that you can do in a day. I think you need a couple of days leading up to go, right. It's not because you want to have sex. It's because it's 12 years anniversary and you want to have a moment with your wife where you have a reconnection moment. And that doesn't have to be physical. If you're thinking about it as, I just want her to have a nice time with me. I want to spend time with her. I want her undivided attention. And I want us to have like truly... what's the word I'm looking for? Like a thoughtful time together. If you're thinking, I want to do this so I can get something out of it, that's probably it's kind of a selfish way of looking at it. What does she want to get out of it? Yeah. Ugh. It's like you've got to do the school uniforms, you've got to do the laundry, you've got to do the packed lunch, and you've got to perform your wifely duties as well. You're just adding to her workload. Whereas if it's more a case of, I want to spend time with you because I enjoy your company, then sexy time is an expression of that. That make sense?
Yeah.
Also chocolate body paint.
And candy pants.
And make a
Candy
fuss
pants.
of her. Don't expect it's all going to be for
Tell her
you.
she's beautiful. She's a queen. She's the princess she deserves to be.
Like, let her know that having a kiss and a cuddle doesn't have to lead to sex. She's more likely to kiss and cuddle you. But if she constantly feels like she's always having to dodge your advances a little bit because she's knackered, she's not going to give you the kisses and cuddles because she's going to think it's going to lead to sex. So, some people just are just too busy. They just don't want it, It may be that she does want it, but she's just like, it takes a while for her to get in the mood. So, yeah, you gotta, this isn't something that you can just get done in a day.
Any more?
That is it.
That is it. And for the last time then, in that case, it has been a podcast. Thank you, all of you, from the absolute bottom of my heart, to my hosts and to our listeners for joining us on a little adventure. Thank you so much to everyone. I really appreciate it. And just thank you for being awesome and going beyond what I could have possibly hoped and dreamed for the podcast. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
You smashed that glass.
We've all smashed that glass. The glass
You
has
have.
officially been smashed. And with that, bye!
Bye!
Bye! Oh, we did it, lads.